Well, today's Monday. I have normally do this last night, but I was going to do it today, but I'm having internet issues at my place. So I'm here at Starbucks, and I'm having internet issues here too. But it's right next to my gym, and it's my day off, so why not do it in a different place? Going back, I think Sunday was a kind of a busy day. I had parents' meetings about people going to the Chicago SYC in December. Then right after that, we had a parents' meeting for tournament in Shenzhen this coming weekend. For the Chicago meeting, one parent showed up. There's only three going, so I guess she's just going to pass the information along. And for Shenzhen, only two parents showed up. So I guess it's because they've gone to Shenzhen so many times before. This meeting wasn't that important. It wasn't really anything new. Other than I learned that they're not going to say announce the times and days of the events until Thursday, and the tournament is Saturday. And they said that's like normal, and this is considered one of their NACs. In fact, it's the final stop before the championships. The Chinese really don't mind putting things off to the last minute. Everybody just sits and waits, and they do their thing. And so we don't have times yet for when the tournament's going to be. After that, I went to a parents' meeting in Puxi with the Shanghai American School parents to talk about our tournament that we're hosting, the school league competition, which we're going to run NCAA style. They're used to seeing relays, which is a cumulative score for each bout. The score keep counting upward to 45. It's a very difficult concept for them to understand that each bout starts at 0-0. They all have this puzzled look on their face, like they didn't know what I was talking about. But the reason why we're doing NCAA style is because, one, it sounds cool to them, and two, each bout is more important. Each bout is very important, so it's not just reliant on the last person to rally up the score. Each bout matters, and then after it, it's back to 0-0 for the next bout. So no one person can really win the whole thing, unlike relay where it's possible that one person could win the whole thing. So spent a long time arranging their team, and they wanted me to do it because parents didn't want to do it because of the appearance of conflict of interest. So I did it, and they were really cool. They just said okay, and there were a couple of additions, so we made an extra team, and now we're all set, and with no objection. The kids said they wanted to be with their friends, and I said, it's time to make new friends. So they are now people what they know, and they're all from the same school. This is a school event, so they should learn to be friends with teammates, no matter who their teammates are. They gave us these new books, pretty handy. I've been using it as much as I remember to use it. I think I have to get in the habit of doing that. I've been relying a lot on my calendar on my phone, mainly because it's just a lot easier to keep. That was Sunday. Monday was the day off. We had a company outing where we went to Wuxi, stayed in this beautiful Japanese-style, peaceful Buddhist hotel. Right next to a big temple in Wuxi where that giant golden Buddha was the last time I came in August. And on the way there, we stopped to see some caves that were in this mountain, and that was pretty cool. And then we went and did kayak racing, and we were taught by the 5-time Chinese national champion woman she's about my height, but we took a picture together, and I put my hand on her back. It was like touching the stone. I mean, she was really strong. And that was a lot of fun. She was really strict. If you started too soon, one boat goes one way, and as soon as it crosses the line, and the other boat comes back. If you started too soon coming back, you were deducted or added 5 seconds to your time. So, and she was keeping very close watch. I mean, she obviously is racing is her thing. So we ended up taking third place, won 100 RMB, which $15. I think that. Okay. Good service all the time here. Then we came back, and we made a stop at a rest stop, and unfortunately we left the front desk girl and the in the bathroom, and we drove off. We didn't know she was missing until her seat was empty, but I looked back in the back of the bus and I thought that I saw her forehead above the seat, but it was somebody else's forehead, so she ended up calling her ex-boyfriend to pick her up and take her back, and when she walked into the center, she was like, she's normally very smiley and bubbly, but all she did was just stare at us as she walked past us. But she was cool about it. Now it's funny. At the time, she didn't have her phone. She didn't have any money, so she was begging people to use their phone. It was pretty. Well, like I said, now it's funny. In our usual management meeting, talked a lot about the tournament, who's going to do what. Fire is the name of our head coach. Got saddled with a lot of the obligations of running this school tournament, NCAA style, getting referees, arranging the schedule, sorting out which strip is going to be what weapon, and all these things. And, well, there's more on that later. Then we went to meet, who was that? Oh, we went to a school called Pinghe, which is a bilingual school. They don't call them international because I don't know why, but it's a Chinese school that teaches also other language, mostly English. And they want to have fencing. They're totally into it. They want to organize. They have a strong squash program already going on, which we were involved with. And they want us to start fencing the same way they did squash. The PE teachers are going to sort out who they think would be the best fencers, and we take them and start training them. So we don't even see the first round of cuts, so to speak. That's all done by the PE teachers. And so that'll be my second school I brought on board, Wellington, and then this one. Both are revivals of existing programs that had somehow faded off. So I'm very happy to be able to do those two. Then we left, that was a Thursday, we went to Bejing. Bejing, flight was like 2.5 hours, and got to the hotel. Right now I have a temporary ID because they have my passport while they're getting my working visa, so I had the slip of paper that they found out I could use as my passport. And I got on the plane, no problem. They didn't even blink. But when we got to the hotel, you also need your ID. And the guy I was with couldn't find his. So I checked into my room, and he's ruffling through his backpack, his wallet, and everything. He couldn't find it, so he had to go to the police station and get a temporary one. Which, we were already landed like at 10:30 at night, and then until 11:30 at the hotel. So he has to go to the police station about midnight, get a temporary ID, gets checked into the hotel about 1 a.m. Somehow he's going through his wallet there's his ID inside his wallet. That panic when your heart starts pounding when you lose something like an ID. The next day, 8 a.m. we left for a 10 a.m. Meeting with the Chinese Fencing Association, which is different than the Chinese Sport Bureau. Chinese Fencing Association is more geared toward the grassroots of fencing and kids, youth programs. I thought our objective there was to show him the value of youth programs, which they already have, and show him how we organize it in the U.S. and how the Chinese can organize it and tweak it to make it actually better than the U.S. system in certain ways. Turns out, when we got there, he said the process for, we wanted to get all rights to all the youth tournaments in China through the Chinese Fencing Association. They're the authority who grants rights, and we'd give them like $1 million RMB, and then we'd run the tournaments with their blessing. Basically, they don't contribute any money; they just put their stamp of approval on it. Well, we had this whole plan. We're going to do 7 stops. They call them stops instead of NACs. 6 stops and then a championship. We had a rating system, a point system, a selection system. We were going to combine our amateur, they call us amateur fencing group, with the professional school sports school fencing group, and top 12 from the amateur and the top 12 from the sports school will fence in a 24-man round robin, 5-touch bouts. Sound familiar? That's how we run NCAAs. So I thought that was the best way to, nobody gets eliminated. It's a 24-man round robin, and the top 4 become the cadet team. I mean, a cadet team could actually come of this because Chinese do not send a cadet team at this point that I've seen. And there are 8 cadet circuit World Cups. I thought there were like 2, but now there's 8, and they're all in Europe. So I think the Chinese should have a presence there. I think everybody should have a presence there, and they're kind of big from what I've heard. But from these events, kids from both sides, the sports schools and the amateur schools, can qualify to represent China in international competition. I think that's pretty cool. I mean, my hope is that some of the top students become some of the top cadet and youth fencers, and sports schools are feeling this. They don't want to do this because it's a possible threat, and it is. So what we're going to do, what we were going to do is present all this and say, yeah, let's do this. Turns out, he said the process for selecting who's going to get these rights, we didn't know there was anybody else interested in doing it, is going to be very transparent. And he said this came from the government. Turns out about 3 guys got arrested from the Chinese Fencing Association for corruption. So now everybody's under the microscope. So he said now there has to be a bidding process. And that was not expected. We didn't anticipate that. My boss was very unhappy to hear about that because there's some big companies who are going to bid like 10 times what we bid and not know how to run it. But they're going to have the rights. And whether they run it or not really doesn't matter to them. All they want is control. And you have to pay them if you wanted to run it, I'm guessing. And they have big money to throw around like that. And, it's kind of a feather in their cap. They have the rights to all the Chinese fencing tournaments. So I said, what is the bidding criteria? How are they going to be selected? I'm not entirely sure he knew the answer to that. So he said, well, we're going to look over their ability to host tournaments, and they're going to look over, and all through a translator, their experience, and last will be money. I think it's actually assistance, but I'm not sure. I mean, the guy seemed like a very nice guy. He was ordered to do this bidding process. Otherwise, I think he would have just gone with us. And that's just the way it goes in China. Things change so fast that you always have to learn to expect the unexpected. I think that's so true. But one little bonus is there's this guy named Wang Lei, who is the head of all of Chinese fencing. We were just leaving, and I got to meet him because he was literally just standing in the lobby. So here's us. We're best buddies. We're not, but he just didn't speak any English until the very end. He said, "Thank you very much." And I was like, it was like without a really big accent. I'm like, this guy speaks probably more English than he's leading on. Or maybe that's the one thing he knows how to say really well. But, so that was cool. We came back late Friday night, and a lot of drama has happened while we were gone. But one day, turns out our head coach has decided to resign. We have Shenzhen coming up this weekend. We have hosting our tournament the weekend after that, training all the way through those 2 weeks, and he's going to quit. I've heard another big club is going to be opening near us in Shanghai early December. I'm wondering if he's going to go there or not. I don't know. We had a long talk. I don't think he's going to. So that's that part about the Shenzhen meeting that he held. He had no intention of going. He didn't even book a plane ticket. It's about another 2-hour drive, pretty far south. A 2-hour drive flight. It's pretty far south. And I'm just shaking my head going, of all the times to quit, right before all these busy times. Next day I had to wake up. I'm up early anyway. And, oh, there was a cat fight that was going on outside my bathroom window, and it sounded like they were inside my bedroom, screaming at each other, howling. I woke up going, oh my God, did I leave a window open? Did I leave the door open? Turns out they were outside. And I started screaming at them, and then they ran off, but I, started screaming right away, so I went to the gym. Came back, took a shower, got dressed. Jamie Duragi was in town doing an EO presentation. So I knew he was coming, and we couldn't make dinner because he ended up going to Bejing suddenly. And so I met him and went to his presentation, and it was really, really good. A lot about the question why people do things, why people are the way they are, and which why are you. Very enlightening, and I really enjoyed it. And I think a lot of the people there who I got to meet were very cool, entrepreneurs, a lot of foreigners. In fact, all but one were foreigners. The one guy that was Chinese served in the U.S. military, so he wasn't, I don't know. But I think it was very well received. A lot of people learned a lot about themselves, so I think that it was worthwhile. So here's the picture of me and Jamie went out. At least we got to go out to lunch, and a nice dumplings place. And I kind of gave him a heads up on how to eat Xiaolongbao, because first time I burned my face off. I mean, you have to, Chinese food, there's like a window of opportunity to eat. It comes at you scalding hot. Then you have to wait until it gets edible hot. Otherwise, it gets like cold really fast. So you kind of have to take a little risk on the hot side rather than on the cold side. And I'm kind of learning that for now, but it took me a few times and a few blisters on my tongue to get that. Oh, by the way, while I was in Beijing, the morning meeting only lasted like noon, so I went to the Forbidden City while my boss and another guy went to another meeting. Sika World is a sports agents in China, so there was boxing and Formula One racing and soccer and track and field. So they went to a meeting with Sika World, and I went to the Forbidden City. It was going to be all in Chinese anyway, so it was cool. Of course, nothing's changed in the Forbidden City. It was snowing for the first time in Beijing. Traffic was a nightmare, but I think traffic is always like that in Beijing. It's like a big parking lot. And it was just still a big wow seeing the Forbidden City. There's nothing like it in the world. But even more, just as impressive was the buildings, the office buildings and the new architecture. It's glass and steel, but it's in the shape of like a temple, or it's in the pagoda. Still extremely Chinese characters on modern buildings, and it's kind of a great blend. It's kind of cool the way they try to keep Beijing Chinese, which, it's the capital. Shanghai is very international, very cosmopolitan, a lot of European-style housing, like French-style housing, buildings here, and it's more the business side of China, and Beijing is more the Chinese side, and it's a very impressive city to go around. Of course, the Forbidden City is just, there's nothing in the world like it. It was raining, well, yeah. The snow turned to rain while I was there, and pretty cool picture of what I saw. There you go. Again, you've seen it a million times, but when you're there, it's just really impressive. And I really am glad that I got to go back there. I haven't been there, I think, since 1990. Something like that. Jamie said he was there about the same time we were. That's about it for all that happened this week. We had Saturday, just parents' meetings again. Sunday, we had emergency meetings about the resignation and covering all the classes. He said he's going to quit on like the 15th, but we're anticipating he will not show up this week and next week at all. So we arranged coverage for all the classes that he's doing. The individual lessons are going to get shuffled around, but the hole in the boat's been plugged, and we just keep moving on. Going to go to the tournament in Baltimore, the NAC, in December, and I'm going to be hopefully trying to get new talent and grow the club. It's extremely tedious dealing with Chinese people. Culture differences, their values, what's important to them, their ambitions or their lack of ambitions, and what they say and what they do. It takes a different perspective to really understand their motivation, what really motivates them. And I don't know. I'm learning as I go along. I hear different sides of the story, and both sides are extremely convincing, but they're not the same story. So I have to decide who it is I'm going to choose to believe. So going back into my coaching, a lot of what I did in coaching was reading people, not just by what they say, but how they behave. And the timing of their answers, whether they make eye contact with me or look away, all these, their posture, as they straighten up or they slouch more, or they up and to the right is one thing, and up and to the left is another. And I know which is which, but I'm not going to say which. So this is an ongoing thing, and it's constant problem solving, and it's very exhausting. Meetings still taking forever. I'm getting better at being translatable because a lot of times I just say too much. So I've been trying to do 1 or 2 sentences max, and then I ask my translator to not only to stop saying he said this. It's like, I know he said that, I'm talking to another person. And that way that cuts out that part of the delay. And also to speak in my voice and speak in their voice as she's talking, telling me what they're saying, so I get not just the words, but the emotion, the feeling behind it. So if something's really important, I want to make that emphasized both ways. And she's new at translating, and she understands. She's extremely soft-spoken, and she's good because she doesn't want to talk over people. But when she's whispered, I cannot hear her, and they're still talking, so it delays it even more. But, it's a work in progress, and we'll see what we can do. In the meantime, today is Monday. We start our filling the gaps in his classes tomorrow and all week. Then Friday we leave for Shenzhen, I believe. I haven't seen a flight confirmation, only an itinerary. Who knows if I have a flight or not. I will be going with a really cool kid named Jack, who's a saber fencer, 14 years old, totally American teenage kind of guy, living in Shanghai, and he's the only saber guy, and there's 22 people there. And this woman next to me is coughing out a lung. I don't know. She's got the Shanghai hack. And I have it too, so I can't really say anything. We'll see how the tournament goes. Totally on my own with this kid, so he's going to be my translator and guide. That 14-year-old's going to be pulling me around Bejing or Shenzhen. And then after he's done, I'm going to run over to the full, where the individual events are going to on. And there's only going to be one coach. It'll be the other British guy, Edward Jeffries, who's like literally half my age, but he's an Olympian, good guy, good coach. And but he's going to have his hands full with 24 kids going on all at the same time. So I'm going to run over there as fast as I can. And then the second day is team event. But Jack won't be doing team because he's the only saber fencer we sent, or that's going. And that'll be fun. I want to see these kids fence. I want to meet some referees. I want to meet some coaches, at least see them and say hello, and try and get my face out there and kind of collect who the good people are. A lot of kids are afraid to go to the SYC in Chicago. I know I'm jumping back here. They're afraid they're not good enough. And I said, oh, how do you know until you go out there? Fear is their number one concern. Not being confident enough to fence well. They got to get out of the small pond and jump into the big pond or a different pond and see how they measure up. And it is a win-win. They go and they fence well. That's great. I don't really. To me, it's more about how much they learn, how much they can bring back with it inside them to bring use at the club. They're going to grow as fencers. They're going to meet people and see that other kids like them are also fencing in different parts of the world. So right now they only see the club. They only see a couple of the Chinese people from their schools or classmates. They need to see other people. That way that'll give them a better measuring stick as to where they're at. And I'm looking forward to seeing them. It's going to be great in Chicago. Most of them are there a couple of days. Everybody speaks English. There are two really great special kids. I mean, they're all special, but two natural leaders. Really, I can't wait to see them when they get into college and see how they are, because I think they're going to be impact players. College is a huge deal for most of the parents. These kids are like 11, and they're worried about which university they're going to get in. So I'm also going to develop a plan of kind of plot their progress and what they can expect and hope for and where they might be best fitted in U.S. universities. And that's about it for now. I'll tell you how Shenzhen goes. I'll tell you how our tournament we're hosting will be coming up, so preparations for that. And our poor Colombian Carlos coach will literally land at 12:30 a.m. on Saturday morning, and at 7 a.m. he'll have to start at our tournament refereeing. Same day. Then Sunday is November 22nd. He'll have a day to collapse, or he'll have to teach class, one or the other. Then Monday I come home, back to Chicago. Can't wait. I like being here, but I love being at home. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.